Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. If I look tired, it's because I am tired. It's the end of a long Tuesday of work. It's like after 8 o'clock and I've only just managed to like regather my mental energy to try and do some me stuff. Also, I know I'm going to the office the next 2 days, which is going to take more me time away from me. Friday is a crazy day of meetings. I just feel like I'm going to die this week. I won't lie, part of me, like, I know Omicron is going to become a big thing in New Zealand soon, and I wish it would just hurry up so we can get rid of the uncertainty, and also so that I can stay home and regroup. Even though I know really it's best if it stays out for as long as possible. Anyway, hi, I'm really tired, but I'm going to try and keep my reading plans for this week fairly low key to match my energy levels. So, I started reading this book last week, but I only got halfway through it. So this is Kurangatuku by Whiti Hereaka. It's like a Māori myth retelling. So there is this Māori myth about Hatupatu and the bird woman, or this Māori guy, Hatupatu, who gets chased by this bird woman, and this is the bird woman's story, or supposedly. The idea with this book is you can read it from either side, and the story kind of meets in the middle with this retelling of the myth of Hatupatu. So last week I read this Ruru nighttime side, and the first 2 chapters blew my mind. They were absolutely beautiful, a story of imagination and unrequited love and this beautiful sapphic romance. But then after that, it just sort of started going through the Māori underworld and telling all these other myths of other characters from Māori mythology, and not really talking as much about the bird woman, Kurangatuku's story herself. And the writing wasn't quite as beautiful, and just, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't terrible, but like that beginning just set me up to think I was going to love this. However, this time what I'm going to do actually, first I'm going to read the Hatupatu myth in the middle. So what I don't understand about this book still, I can't believe I'm reading a book that I don't understand. But in the middle is this myth of Hatupatu and the bird woman. But like if you read from this way, you get Hatupatu and the bird woman, and then if you read from the other way, you also get Hatupatu and the bird woman. And like in this middle section, every second page is upside down. And I looked at it briefly, and I know that it starts out the same from either direction and it ends the same from either direction, I think. But I don't know if it's all the same. And the idea is you can start from either side. So I started from this side, so I'm going to read this Hatupatu and the bird woman first. Then I'll read this side, and then we'll read this Hatupatu and the bird woman, and we'll see if it's the same. We'll see how reading from the other side changes my perspective of the story. I mean, honestly, the first 2 chapters being beautiful and this amazing format makes me glad I've read this book regardless. But I'm really hoping that there'll be more to Kurangatuku's story as well. So that's the first thing I'm going to read. The other thing that I'm going to read is an audiobook, because I will be driving back and forth to town, so I should have some time for listening to audiobooks. So the audiobook that I have is Redemptor by Jordan Ufueko. So this is the second book in, I'm going to call it the Raybearer duology. The duology might have a different name, but I read Raybearer last year and I really liked it. It is about this young girl who has kind of been raised to kill the emperor, but in this world, the emperor basically pulls this court towards him. Each one will have a different magical ability or a magical gift, and when they swear their love to him, he basically gets an immunity from a different kind of death. So once he's built his court up, he is basically immune from death. But this young girl, her mother has set her up to try and assassinate him. So it's a really interesting thing for her, because she basically has to get into this position of loving him in order to kill him, but she also doesn't know right from the beginning that that's what she's being set up for. In the story, she also takes a bit of a journey, and as part of that journey, she learns that perhaps there's more to what's going on in this world than what she'd realized. I really liked the first one. I really love the emotional side of it. The magic is really interesting. All these different magical gifts and the way that it's woven into the story were really cool. And so I'm looking forward to continuing that. I do have some more things to read if we happen to get through these 2, but that's what we're going to start with, because we want to keep it easy. Oh my goodness. This week, it's only Tuesday and I'm already annoyed at it.
Hello. It's Saturday morning. This week, I kind of ruin things. I think when I get stressed, I do this all the time. Like, I get stressed, I stay up late, I know it's a bad decision, but I do it anyway, and then I'm super tired. I get more stressed because I can't, I haven't got enough mental energy to deal with my life. And then I make more bad decisions. I stay up late even more until like I just am not functional. So this week that's what I did, and it was a terrible idea, and I knew it was a terrible idea, and I did it anyway. So I haven't done any reading. Oh no, that's not true. I think I've listened to about the first third of Redemptor. I am liking it. I feel like it's missing kind of the emotional conflict that the first book had. Like there is some emotional stuff going on, but in the first book, she was really set up with this difficult position where she was loyal and loved this man, but she was also being set up to kill him. Whereas in this one, it's more like she's trying to save the kingdom, and there's some reasons why that's all on her, and some reasons why she can't share everything with her fellow council members, and she's having to dig into her past memories, and like all of it's emotional, but it's not like the same level of angst as the previous one. I think as well, like in the first book, we were learning all about these different people's powers, and the way that those powers were weaving into the plot was really interesting, and that's missing from this one too. So I'm making it sound like I'm not enjoying it. I am enjoying it, but it's not quite at the level of the first book. But I'm only a third of the way through, so we'll see how it goes. I am going to go now. Probably now. I need to go and get my booster shot. I'm going to walk there because it's at the mall, and we've started to get a few sprinklings of Omicron, like border workers who have it, who've been out in public. And so I feel like today's the day that everyone else is going to go out and panic buy, because the way the newspapers have been reporting it, just people are going to go and panic buy. So I know parking at the mall is going to be a disaster. So I'm going to walk instead, which will give me some time to listen to my audiobook. And then I think after that I'm going to go around to Jason's, so that'll give me some driving audiobook time as well. So maybe I'll finish the book off in all of that time, maybe not. But I guess I need to go and try and be functional at life, and then I'll let you know whether I fit some reading into that functionality.
I'm scared to lose myself or to grow old. And all my shadows, they just don't know where to go. And life is like a dream where I walk down a long road, and when I wake up I just don't know where to go. I guess I'll never know.
Hello, I'm in the same spot, but obviously it's a different day. My arm hurts a little bit from the booster, but not much. I think it actually hurt more last night, and now it's kind of easing off. So I think I've managed to get through the booster without too much ill effects. I mean, I look quite tired, but that's probably because we didn't get much sleep last night. That wasn't necessarily bad decision making though. That was just spending quality time. Anyway, as expected, Omicron is in the community. So we're going to go to what we're calling red light. It's not really a lockdown, but for me, with my janky immune system, it's essentially a lockdown because my work has said, we can work from home, and so pretty much I just won't go anywhere. But we'll see how the numbers go, I guess. I mean, it's not really a surprise. We knew it was going to happen eventually. So I'm kind of glad it's happened, because otherwise it was just kind of dragging out forever. And I think we are as prepared as we're going to be in terms of like a lot of people are vaccinated in New Zealand, and a lot of people, not everyone, but a decent amount have had their booster. So really we just need to let it do its thing, but slow it down while it does it, I guess. We'll see how it goes. I did, while I was driving around, manage to get, I think I'm about 60% of the way through Redemptor, and I am enjoying it. I think it's a good story. I just don't feel that same connection as I had in the first book still. And I'm frustrated about some things. I think the problem is with this book. So in the first book, we basically had this Council of 12 being built, and everyone had to fall in love with this emperor. Now we've got this Council of 12 that needs to fall in love with her in order to become her council. But there's just not really enough space in a book for 12 love stories. So like we never really get to know all 12 of the characters from the main council who are like her council brothers and sisters, and she talks about how she has a close bond with all of them, but actually I don't even know who all of them are. There's a few who she's really close with, but the others I don't even know. I assume their names have been said at some point, but I don't reckon their names have all been said in this second book. And now we've got this other council of 12 that we're trying to fall in love with, and I don't even know who the 12 are, but we're definitely not really getting to know all 12 stories. And like I'm annoyed because she's expecting them to fall in love with her and like doing all this thing so they can get to know her. But like, if you want people to fall in love with you, shouldn't you get to know them and like actually build a relationship? So that aspect of it kind of seems dumb. There are still some interesting things with the magic and the world being developed. I'm a little bit annoyed. I feel like the romance from the first book has kind of been put to the side, and it's almost like they're trying to develop another love interest. But I feel like if the first love interest doesn't hold up, then why would I believe in another love interest in the way that it's been set up? Like, generally, I'm not against like the idea of including the fact that you can be in love with someone and then break up with them and move on in fantasy books, and I think that's good and realistic to include. But in this case, I don't know, it just kind of takes away from that emotional thing that I was invested in the first book. In this second love interest, there's no real like emotional stakes there. It's more just annoying, but maybe they're not really even trying to set that up. Maybe it's a distraction. Anyway, I am enjoying this. I will continue that today while I do some, I don't know what I need to do. I actually need to prep for a meeting on Tuesday, but now that Omicron's here, I'm thinking of suggesting that we bump it a week so that I have more time to prepare, but also I can come up with a whole bunch of other reasons why it would be better for other people too. But it's also the kind of meeting that there's probably never a good time to do it. So do we keep bumping it? Probably not, but maybe 1 week would like make my life a lot easier. We'll see. I really would like to do some reading as well today of like Kurangatuku, which I'm annoyed that it's taking this long to make progress on. So I'll try, amongst all my sorting my shit out, to do some reading on that. At least I'm going to go to bed by 9 o'clock and read. I really need to get back into the habit of doing that.
Hello, so I am still very stressed about work on a Wednesday night, mainly because of this meeting that I'm supposed to be running now next Tuesday, and I never seem to find any time to prep for it, and until I prep for it, I'm going to be stressed. So tomorrow, we're going to prep for it. I'm very close to being ready. I have done like little bits along the way. I think I'm nearly ready to stop being stressed. I really need to stop being stressed. I did dye my roots, and look, they seem to finally be taking some color. Not sure this is exactly what I wanted it to look like, but for a long time I've been trying to put color in my hair and it just keeps coming out black. So it was quite exciting for my roots to finally take this kind of pinky color. I forget what it's called. Violet Ultra. Anyway, I'm going to go for trying to make my hair pink, and then I will decide, I can tell the future, and we'll decide that I don't really suit pink hair, and then from there we can go to a color that I might actually suit, like purple or blue. But it seems like my hair is most willing to accept pink for now, so that's what we're going to give it. Anyway, let me update you on my reading. I am like an hour and a half from the end of Redemptor, and I'm so conflicted about it because I do think it's a really good story. It's got some really good themes in it. There is a really interesting world. Our main character just kind of went to the underworld, and there was this magical creature kind of introduced there that was really interesting. All these things are like tempting her not to come back, and there's like all these challenges she has to overcome to come back from the underworld. So I really am enjoying what's happening with that. Even though I think it's a really great story, I'm just annoyed that there's too many characters and you can't possibly get to know them all, and it doesn't even try to touch on all of them. So why are they even there? And the second thing is that just the first one, I felt really emotionally invested. And the second one, I don't feel that, but I can't really say why, because I still think there are interesting things happening. I just think the conflict in the first one was one that I relate to, whereas the conflict in the second one, it's more like she wants to do these great things and she feels like she's all alone in trying to achieve these things. and part of the lesson she's meant to be learning is that she's not all alone. Maybe this is a lesson I need to learn, and maybe it's why I'm stressed, because I feel like I have to do all this stuff on my own. But maybe it is relatable to me, but it's not the story that makes me feel emotional, because I don't know, I don't mind being alone, so it doesn't upset me like it's upsetting this main character. The other thing that I have been reading is Kurangatuku. What happened in the bit I'm reading? Oh, so basically we're following Kurangatuku as she's first kind of created, and she's learning how to weave cloth and make these cloaks. She's kind of spying using the miro, which is that bird. I'm pointing with my head because I've run out of hands. She's using the birds to spy on these Māori people and learn how to weave these cloaks, and learning about them through that. There was a mention of the I forget how to say it now, but like the fairy type people that are in Māori mythology. It talks about how the Māori people actually learnt how to do this weaving from those people, and now Kurangatuku's like sneaking around learning it from them. I am actually really liking it. I don't think it's quite as beautiful as the first chapters of this side, but it still is really beautiful, and just like the way it's talking about creation and learning, I guess like self-creation as well. It's all a kind of creation. What I do think is, even though I know I've been disappointed by some parts of this book, I do think this is actually like a really amazing book in terms of the way it's put together and the ideas that it's looking at. So even if I don't find the rest of it as beautiful as the first parts of this side, I still think I will reread this at some point, because there's just so much to take in, and I'm taking a long time to read this, which part of me is quite annoyed about that, but another part of me is like, I think this is the kind of book that you really do want to kind of sit with and take your time digesting the ideas. And now, even though I was annoyed about how long it was taking me to read this, I'm almost annoyed that I haven't taken more time with it as well. Like, I just think at the moment, because I'm so stressed with work, that I don't have the headspace that this book deserves. So maybe a reread in the future, but for now I'm just trying to get through my first read. So hopefully I can read some more of this tonight as well. So I'm going to do some housework, finish off Redemptor. I actually have 2 more audiobooks that I think there's hold queues on, so I can't keep them beyond their return date, which I think is in like 4 or 5 days. But they're just like YA mysteries, so I think they're pretty short and should be easy to get through. Also, if I can manage to de-stress myself, long weekend this weekend, I can go for some walks, I can listen to some audiobooks, I can be happy. Maybe.
We're chasing one another, getting lost in another summer. Never wanted it to end. Now I'm losing all my friends. I'm reminded of the pain when I'm on the interstate, me and the moon, and we think of you.
Hello, so it's been quite a few days since I last updated this. It's now Monday, the 31st of January, last day of the month. Also public holiday, thank goodness, because you might not be surprised, but I need a day to get my shit together. Probably I need a lot more than a day, but we've got a day to get our shit together. So I'm going to do some filming, which I haven't done in a little while, as well as I'm going to update you on how we're going. So I have read a little bit of things. Firstly, I finished off Redemptor. I think my thoughts didn't really change. Like, I liked it. I thought it was really well written. There were some interesting things, but I just think it didn't do as good a job as the first book in interweaving the magic with the plot, and also that emotional journey that also went along with that. And I think there were just too many characters for you to really feel attached to them in the way that it wanted you to be attached to them. But still, I do think it's a really interesting world and a really interesting story and worth the read. That second book wasn't quite what I wanted. I think it could have done with being a trilogy and being like built out more. Maybe. I don't know. but I liked it, but not everything I was hoping for. Then I've been trying to continue reading this, but struggling. So what I did actually manage to do is read some more audiobooks. So I've been listening to these 2 YA mystery thrillers that I had. So the first one, which I've already finished reading, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I think this is actually one where there's a continued series, so I will have to continue it. It's basically this girl and she is trying to solve a murder. Basically, this guy in her neighborhood was accused of murdering this girl, and her body's never been found, and the family is all now treated really badly. Oh, the actual guy killed himself, but the rest of the family that's remaining, as well as having to grieve for that, is now being treated, you know, like the family of a murderer. And she had an interaction with this guy when she was younger, and so she finds it really hard to believe that he could have been the murderer. And so for the school assignment, she takes on the job of trying to figure out whether there's more to the story, and of course she discovers more to the story. I will say it wasn't massively surprising. Like, I guessed most of the key factors right from the beginning, but it was still just a lot of fun. I kind of just flew through it. It was like, I don't know, so easy to digest and just take in. What I will say is I absolutely hated the audiobook narrator. I believe that there's a UK version and an American version. And I had the American version for some reason. Normally we get UK stuff here in New Zealand, but anyway, I got the American version and I hated it. The voice she was putting on for these teens just seemed really like over the top, and like, I don't know, it was like she's trying to be comedic, and there is a comedic tone to the books, but she just took it like over the top rather than it being like an interesting character. And I feel like if I'd read it without this annoying audiobook narrator, that I would have more heavily compared it to like Nancy Drew or something. But I pretty much had to listen to the audiobook and just like keep deleting the audiobook narrator's additions from my head and reread it in my own head. Does that even make sense? Probably not. But I didn't like the audiobook narrator's style at all. I felt like her interpretations of things made it seem like less real. But still, the main character was kind of like, she's this really studious girl, really over the top with her studies, and she has this really great friend group, which I liked how it wove her own story into the story of this murder mystery she was trying to solve. So I'm really interested because there were also a few little hints of things around the place, and I wonder how that's going to feed into the next books. The other one that I picked up after I read that is I started reading, what's it called? One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. I think I've seen her publish things under just Karen McManus. Maybe I made that up. But anyway, there's also a sequel to this. So this is basically a bunch of teens end up in detention, and then during that detention, one of these teens ends up dead, and the rest of them end up as murder suspects. And so it's just kind of looking at the impact this murder investigation is having on their lives, as well as they each kind of have these different secrets that are coming out as a result of this murder investigation, and potentially giving them motives for murder. I currently have like 2 alternate theories of what's actually happened. But if it manages to actually, because you're getting the perspective of each of these teens, and if it's managed to trick me, I'm going to be very impressed. But both of these have been just so easy to read. I've just been putting them on while I do things. And so now I am nearly finished with One of Us is Lying. I think I've only got like an hour left to listen to it. So I will definitely be finishing that today. Now, the one that you're probably wondering about is Kurangatuku. This one, I have not been using a bookmark, but I believe I'm probably like halfway through this side of the book. I'd already read this side of the book. I think, liking this side better, and I kind of think you should read this side first. I know the author said you could read either side first, but I feel like this is more the story of Kurangatuku meeting Hatupatu, whereas this is the story of her in the underworld pursuing Hatupatu. And what the author has said is not wrong. You could read it in either way, but I feel like this side kind of makes a little bit more sense. So unfortunately, this is the side I meant to start with, but then I got confused and started this side instead. So I think I ruined it for myself. But it's kind of interesting how the 2 sides are connected. Like, they're not too connected other than it being the same myth. But there are references that you could definitely read in different ways depending on which side you'd read. And so I do, now that I'm picking up on some of them on this side, I am wondering how many of them were on this side that I didn't pick up on. So I almost want to reread this side now that I've read this side. But as I said, I think I'm going to reread this at some time in the future when my brain is not so dead from work. But yeah, basically on this side, we are now building a relationship between Hatupatu and Kurangatuku. It's really interesting. I think the thing with the story is it's less about the story of Hatupatu and Kurangatuku meeting each other. It's more about like what makes someone real, what makes something a person. It's about perceptions and imagination. It's just, I really like the ideas in this. I wish I had more brain power at the moment for taking it on, but I don't. So I am just going to try and finish it today on my Get My Shit Together day. And then I guess at some point in the future when my brain is better, I will reread this again. Anyway, we'll see if my thoughts change by the time I finish that tonight. I am going to go and try and be productive, get my shit together, and check in with you again later. Hello. So it is a few days later. I have not managed to get my shit together. Well, closer. But what I have managed to do is finish reading Kurangatuku. Oh, it took me so long, but also I feel like I wish I could have taken more time with it, but also I wish I had more brain to work with while reading this. I definitely think I will reread this in the future. I will say it was really weird when I got to the end of the book and I was in the middle of the book and I was really tempted to like flip it over and keep reading, because I do now wonder about the story where Kurangatuku is chasing Hatupatu through the underworld. Like, I feel like that's just got so much more meaning when you've already experienced this awful relationship that Kurangatuku and Hatupatu had between each other. And also, like, that part of the story, this side of the story, it was so interesting, and I feel like it has so much to say that I didn't even pick up on because I do not have the brain for it at the moment. So this is definitely one to reread. I don't think my mind changed too much about the rest of it otherwise. Definitely the first two chapters of this side are the most beautiful. But there are like little bits of beauty throughout this, like some really beautiful lines, some really like interesting ideas. But it's not really like a traditional story. It's getting quite meta with the way that it talks about stories, even within the telling of the story. Like, it's very aware that it's telling a story, because we're hearing from Kurangatuku's voice most of the time, and she is aware that she was created from stories. I don't know. I really struggled with this book, but I also kind of loved it. Probably I need to think about it a bunch more. The other thing that I have read in the last couple of days is I finished off, what was it called? One of Us is Lying. Basically the ending just continued. I really liked just these different characters' journeys. Like, I really feel like it was just the kind of story I needed. Like, I was surprised how attached I felt to the different teens in the story as they went through this experience, and they're just a lot of them are kind of learning how to be themselves and not keep secrets. The ending didn't surprise me. It was one of my guesses. But there were some elements of how it actually played out that were surprising that I liked. I just think it was a great cast of characters, and the way they get to know each other and get to know themselves made it a really good story, especially like a really great YA story. I think if I had read this when I was a teen, it would have blown my mind and would have been one of my favorites. So this one's a series too. I feel like both of these ones that I read, these YA mysteries that I've read, they kind of set up to be this particular incident that happened in these teens' neighborhood. And then it doesn't really make sense for there to be a continuation, because, like, really, is another big murder mystery going to happen to the same group of people? Seems unlikely. But still, I did enjoy both of them in the cast of characters. So I'm interested to see how the continuation will go. I think I put holds on both the next books in the series at the library, and I guess I'll read them whenever they come through. But anyway, I've definitely ruined my idea of sticking to weekly reading vlogs at this point, but whatever. So I don't even know how long I've been filming this vlog for now. But
thank you for hanging out with me. Do let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about in this vlog, or if you're interested in reading them, because I would love to talk with you more about them down in the comments. Otherwise, I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.